with the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer, a weekly podcast reviewing 2 new or recent release titles every episode with an occasional free-for-all segment at the end that we call Potpourri. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find more of my work, including my written reviews, full episode show notes, and the complete backlog of our episodes and spin-off podcasts at obsessiveviewer.com. You can also follow me on Letterboxd and other social media platforms at the username of Obsessive Viewer. And if you'd like to support us and get access to hundreds of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, which has a ton of different recordings and stuff over the years at different tier levels. Coming up on Patreon, I'm going to be doing some more immediate reaction recordings for movies I watched right out of the theater, and, you know, at home as well. And I am also going to be starting a review series on the Stephen King adaptation on MGM Plus, The Institute. And currently on Patreon, we have a B-roll recording that we just recorded ahead of recording this episode where we talked about Stephen King and a very questionably worded tweet that he tweeted today regarding the Epstein files. And we also talked about comic books and Batman and all of that. So once again, you can sign up for all of that over at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And if you want to support me without messing around with Patreon, or in addition to Patreon, you can always buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/obsessiveviewer. This week on the show, later, I'm going to be reviewing M3GAN 2.0, which is now available on PVOD, as well as still completing its theatrical run in this week's secondary review. But before that, we're going to go over some movie news and Indianapolis screenings before reviewing the highly anticipated start to the new DCU, James Gunn's Superman, in this week's feature review. And joining me this week is my friend and IFJ colleague whose work can be found at MidwestFilmJournal.com, and he can also be followed on Letterboxd at the handle of Wounded_Kite. It's Mitch Ringenberg. Welcome back to the show, Mitch. How are you doing this Tuesday evening that we're recording, now that I've dated it?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Stoked to talk Superman with you, and happy to be back on the Obsessive Viewer.
Yes, I'm happy to have you back. You were on recently. It's nice to get a nice dose of Mitch in quick succession, because you were on a few weeks ago for 28 Years Later on episode 480. So I'm very excited to chat with you again.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And so as established in episode 480, you're kind of taking a hiatus from, you know, the writing and everything. But you can follow Mitch's hijinks in the movie world at Letterboxd at the username of Wounded_Kite, and his entire backlog of work at MidwestFilmJournal.com. I'll put a link to all of his stuff in the show notes, but I do want to mention that Midwest Film Journal right now is currently doing a series for this month called Defoe Defriend. It is a retrospective on the work of Willem Dafoe. As of this recording, they've got Clear and Present Danger, an essay written by Joe Shearer, Flight of the Intruder, I think it was called, written by Nick Rogers. There's also the Grand Budapest Hotel, The Lighthouse, At Eternity's Gate, a lot of good stuff and a lot more to come. So check that out at MidwestFilmJournal.com. Link in the show notes. Mitch, any thoughts on Defoe Defriend?
You know, I actually was kind of considering writing something for it. It fell on a week that I just did not. The timing didn't work out. But obviously, I mean, I think it's a love of the name, love the series name, and on top of that, you know, I think Willem Dafoe is probably one of the best actors alive and working today. And,
absolutely.
Especially, I think this kind of third leg of his career. Right now, I think the projects he chooses are so fascinating. He really doesn't seem to be choosing anything that doesn't interest him. And He is one of those rare actors, almost like a Philip Seymour Hoffman or a Harry Dean Stanton back in the day, where, you know, if they show up in a movie, it's better. They're single-handedly elevating the film they're in. And even if it's not a good movie, which honestly, he's very consistent in the projects he chooses, but even if it's a less than successful film, you know, he's going to be good in it, and he's going to be a memorable part of the film.
Totally agree.
I think he's very much a worthy actor with like a vast filmography, you know, to have a series like that on. So no, I'm excited to read more of the entries as they come along. And the movie I would have written about, actually, I mentioned this, weirdly enough, I mentioned this filmmaker in our B-roll, which is Paul Schrader's Light Sleeper, which
interesting.
It's an amazing early 90s Paul Schrader movie where Willem Dafoe plays kind of a pensive and melancholy drug dealer who who drifts through different Manhattan apartments selling drugs to people and brooding a lot. But it is a very beautiful and moody film. I would recommend it.
Wow. So Paul Schrader made a movie about a brooding, melancholy, pensive character? That's weird.
It is weird. Yeah. You're going to find he feels very lonely, and he often seems to kind of resort to these kind of the self-punishment, almost living this kind of self-imposed hermetic lifestyle. That seems completely out of character.
Yeah, but that's wild.
It's definitely one of those Paul Schrader plots where it's like could have transposed that into about 15 different movies.
Right.
But I don't know what it is when he makes those types of movies. I'm like, I'm in. Are we doing this? Cool. Like,
oh yeah.
Just constantly remixing the same stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And yet, when they work, they somehow feel fresh. And I would say Light Sleeper is one of those instances.
Nice. Very nice. Well, I'm looking forward to reading more of the essays over at Midwest Film Journal on Defoe to Friend. So again, check that out. Link in the show notes. Mitch, anything that you've watched recently? We might do a potpourri section later, I'm not sure, but anything you've watched that, you know, you want to just highlight, or before we get to what's playing this week in Indy?
Yeah, this was actually very recent. I doubt it's playing anymore at the Can, but I recently watched the film Pavements, which is by Alex Ross Perry, which is... I don't even know how to describe this movie, Matt. Are you familiar with like the 90s band Pavement? I
am familiar with about a 10 to 15 second clip of one of their songs that was popular on TikTok.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a very catchy, that like, I really like it. It's from, I can't remember what it's called. But it's the, it's the one where like the lyrics are, saying that like it's like the rhyme scheme is that they're not rhyming the words, they're doing a synonym for a word that would have rhymed.
It's like the song's like show me a word that rhymes with pavement.
Yes
or whatever, and he's like, and I will kill your parents and roast them on the spit or whatever he said. Yes. Yep. So it's funny, I think you actually asked me what Wounded Kite meant one time, and weirdly enough, coincidentally, that is taken from a Pavement song.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite bands from back when I was probably like in the middle school days, and kind of really opened my mind to like the world of indie music and stuff like that. And they're one of those bands that were very critically acclaimed in their day, but they just never really gained mainstream success, despite having like kind of a lot of critical accolades and a pretty like devoted fan base, but they never broke out. They're just a little too idiosyncratic and out there. And this movie Pavements is kind of like a love letter to that band. And I'll be honest, if you are not really into Pavement, I don't know how successful this movie would be. Okay. I think if I had to knock against the movie, I would say two things. One, it's a little too long. It's like a little over 2 hours long, and I just feel like a rock documentary that is this kind of inaccessible to people outside, I just think is a little hard. It could have been a tight 90, and I think I would have been a little more successful. But this movie is a hybrid of a few things. A kind of standard rock documentary about Pavement and their beginnings. A behind-the-scenes look at the making of a Pavement jukebox musical that ran off Broadway.
Okay.
A making of a fake Pavement biopic starring Joe Keery from Stranger Things, which is not a real biopic, but they're casting it, and he's getting into character, and he's going to like a speech trainer to like sound like the lead singer of Pavement, and they're doing all this prep work for it. But it's not a real movie. And a making of this documentary as well.
Okay.
So it's all of these four things wrapped into one. And, you know, I would say the result is just really bizarre and kind of formless, which I think is like a way you kind of describe Pavement's music, but also pretty charming and cute and fun, which you could also use to describe Pavement's music. So, you know, it has a lot of great, just kind of 90s slacker vibes. And Alex Ross Berry, who directed this, he's also directed movies like Her Smell and Listen Up, Philip, which was really great from about 10 years ago. You know, if you're into Pavement, I mean, this is pretty much a must see. There are a lot of appearances from people like Tim Heidecker playing Pavement's manager.
Nice.
Jason Schwartzman as well. So, you know, and also a lot of like current bands like Soccer Mommy, who kind of make their way in and out of the musical. But yeah, it's interesting. I wish it was a little more of like an on-ramp for people who are curious about Pavement. Okay. I wish I could kind of recommend it more to casual listeners, but I do fear it might be just a completely baffling experience for interesting. But I don't know if you end up seeing it. I would be curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Nice.
Well, I know that was recently playing at the Can. I wish I could have caught it, but I was just battling an illness at the time, so I just rented it on VOD.
Yeah. Well, I will harness my hopes that it would be that people will watch it. I'm going to check it out. Harness Your Hopes is the song that I referenced. I looked it up while you were talking. But anyway, yeah, that sounds really interesting. And for I wouldn't even say like not a music biopic or anything, but like that just seems like a really interesting and unique kind of way to go about like a music movie.
Yeah, there's nothing really like it. It feels like you're watching almost, for both better and worse, it almost feels like a movie that would be playing at like an art installation. Okay. That you could kind of just like walk in the room, watch for like 15 minutes, walk out, watch for like 15 minutes. And it would still kind of feel like a complete experience, if that makes sense.
Okay,
like
it's
a very non-traditional structure. So
nice.
And I will say, the off-Broadway musical that they were making actually looked incredible. I was
nice.
I kind of would just want to watch this. Like, I see this. It looks great.
That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, that's Pavements. It's out on digital now, I believe. But it's not playing anymore at the Can. But do you want to talk about what's playing this week in Indy? I've got a few things. Okay, so speaking of the Can, on July 24th, so that's next week, they're showing The Mummy, a VHS screening. And then on the 29th, they're doing Grindhouse, the full Grindhouse double feature thing.
Tarantino Rodriguez?
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And that's going to be their...
I saw that in theaters.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was funny. I don't know if he's listening, but I remember like I went down to Evansville, like it was 2007. I went down to Evansville to visit my friends Mike and Pat and like people that were down at USI. And we saw Grindhouse in the theater, and Pat, who hosts the Nerds You're Looking For podcast, I remember this vividly, that his girlfriend, at the time, she apparently wasn't into like horror or anything. And I remember him telling her like, oh no, this is a movie about skateboarding. And she was pissed.
Grind out.
Yeah.
It's a sequel to the film Grind from the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
The teen skateboarding comedy.
Yeah. But Grindhouse, again, is playing at the Can on July 29th. It's going to be part of their $10 Tuesdays. So, discounted
cool.
price. Yeah. And then over at the Alamo Draft House on July 23rd, they're showing The Birds. And of course, this weekend on Sunday at 6 p.m., they're doing their movie trivia that's hosted by our friend and colleague, Lou Harry. That's free to enter the movie trivia, solo or with the team, whatever. So go check it out. And that's at Alamo Draft House. And other theaters around the city, check the show notes for links to it. But I do want to mention that starting July 22nd and running through the 27th, it's the 8th annual Indie Shorts International Film Festival that's playing at Living Room Theaters and at Newfields, as well as having streaming tickets available as well. Check out more information on the Indie Shorts Film Festival over at heartlandfilm.org. Always great stuff there. Are you planning on doing anything with Indie Shorts, or?
I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to. I think I may try to make it, because I don't think I've gone in several years. So.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do something. Like I'm hoping to check something out, but we'll see what happens. I don't want to commit to anything, but it's always a blast to check out Indie Shorts and Heartland in general. So, but that's at heartlandfilm.org. And Mitch, would you like to go into news before the reviews?
Absolutely, I would.
Nice. Well, I only have one piece of news, and it's a big one, because this morning, July 15th, the 2025 Emmy nominations were announced. Have you taken a look at any of those yet, or? You
know what? I have not. Mm-hmm. You wanna lay down some any surprise nominations or big sweeps? I'd love to.
Oh, yeah. So I'll put a link in the show notes, of course, to the Variety article, but there's a lot of really interesting stuff. So the standout, the lead nominee is Severance with 27 nominations, and The Penguin, The Studio, and White Lotus are the kind of runners-up in terms of nominations. The Studio, in fact, beats the record by Ted Lasso for most nominations for a freshman series. So that got 23 nominations for The Studio. So that's exciting. I need to go back and watch The Studio. I watched the first episode, but then just like with everything, I just fell off of it. But
that's a hell of a first episode, though.
Oh my God, it's so good. I was thinking about it today, just that ending with Steve Buscemi talking about Scorsese, just like so good. Just like that surprise is so great. But I'm not going to run down all the nominees or anything, but some standouts are lead actor in a drama series. I feel like this is maybe going to potentially spoil The Last of Us. Maybe the conversation around it might, but Pedro Pascal got nominated for lead actor.
Which
is interesting. Adam Scott also got nominated. Noah Wyle for The Pit, which I'm very excited about because I love that show.
Great show.
Yeah. Also Gary Oldman for Slow Horses and Sterling K. Brown for Paradise, which I saw the first couple of episodes of, and I thought it was okay. But anyway.
My dad loved that show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I have not seen it, though.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of high concept show. It's very much in the vein, sort of other what's his name shows, the Last of Us creator, not Last of Us creator, but This Is Us. Yeah.
Yes, I saw the movie he did, Life Itself, with Oscar Isaac. It was one of the worst movies I'd seen.
It was so fucking bad.
Yeah.
It's, oh my God. It was, that was
a swing and a miss.
Horrible. Dan Fogelman is his name, but that first episode of Paradise kind of follows a similar sort of, not structure, but sort of similar type of thing as like the pilot episode of This Is Us. It's like, oh, you're seeing something play out, and then the last moment it's like, oh, this is what's really going on. And like, it's an interesting hook, but it wasn't enough to like hook me to watch the rest of it. So
that's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, have you seen The Pit or Severance? I still need to finish Severance.
So I believe we actually talked about Severance. I kind of fell off season 2. I felt like it was just getting a little too mystery boxy for me. Like I felt like we were kind of losing sight of like the core mystery and kind of springing off into these little ancillary mysteries that I just felt like it was maybe just getting a little too self-indulgent for me. However, I heard the season ends in incredible fashion, and that has kind of made me want to jump back on it. I do have a bad habit of starting shows and not finishing them.
Same.
The Pit, I have seen the whole season. Loved it. Great little medical drama. Very intense and immersive with great characters. Gets a little didactic and preachy at times, but I didn't really mind it too much. I thought it was, the performances and most of the writing really sold it. The Penguin I have seen.
Right.
Really enjoyed that. First couple episodes, we're like a little like, okay, where's this going? But then once it picks up, it really picks up. And Kristen Milioti is just unbelievable in that show. And I really hope she is in Matt Reeves' Batman sequel, her character, because she is fantastic.
Yes, I still haven't watched The Penguin yet, but I'm going to. As someone who loves the Matt Reeves movie, like I'm excited to just dive back into that world. We talked about it last time you were on, but
yeah, you're in for a treat.
Yeah. Also, it's worth mentioning that I don't remember if I mentioned this the last couple of weeks on the show, but they have officially finished the script for the Batman Part 2. And also, apparently, the Matt Reeves like saga is like the name for it is the Batman Epic Crime Saga, which is fine.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like okay. But yeah, Kristen Milioti did get nominated for lead actress in a limited or anthology series for The Penguin. I love her. I've been a huge fan of hers since How I Met Your Mother. And also Palm Springs was phenomenal. She's great. She's absolutely great. So very happy to see that. And then also some nominations for lead actress in a drama series: Bella Ramsey, Britt Lauer for Severance, Kerry Russell for The Diplomat, Sharon Horgan for Bad Sisters, and Kathy Bates for Matlock. Interesting. I would hope Britt Lauer would get it, or Bella Ramsey. Both are good. Those are the only two shows that I've watched of those nominees.
Yeah, I saw the first season of The Last of Us. Did not start the second season, but I will get around to it eventually.
Okay,
for sure. It was, at the time, it just felt a little heavy.
Yes,
and my wife and I at the time, who watched the first season together, we were like choosing between that and something else, and I was like, well, this seems like it's going to be like an easier thing to digest.
Sure.
And then. Once kind of the season, that's the thing about TV. Sometimes it's like, or movies even, like sometimes when you miss the show while it's airing, or just like when you miss a movie when it's playing in theaters, sometimes you almost never get around to it. And I've heard this second season isn't as strong as the first. Most people have said, but I still want to check it out.
Yeah, I need to circle back and catch up on it. I talked about it last week or the week before. I love the games, the Last of Us games, and I think the structure of that narrative is so interesting. In the way that they adapted it, it's just very true to it. So, but yeah, and then finally, I'm not like I said, I'm not going to run down everything, but I did want to mention drama series nominees were Andor, The Diplomat, The Last of Us, Paradise, The Pit, Severance, Slow Horses, and The White Lotus. Have you seen Andor at all? I haven't watched any of it.
You know what's funny is, so it's funny, we're talking about how like much of a comic book guy I am, you know, you would think I'd be a huge Star Wars guy, but I'm the kind of guy, like I love the original Star Wars trilogy. Is it like is it like a core piece of my nerddom? Not at all.
Okay.
But I love those movies. Like I love a lot of movies, but you know, they're not like this kind of integral part of like my youth or anything growing up.
Fair. Same.
So, you know, I mean, the rest of everything outside of that prequel trilogy, I can kind of take or leave for the most part. And I did watch the first couple episodes of Andor just because I've heard people say literally it's among the best TV made in the past 10 years, you know? And I watched the first few episodes. I would disagree. I wouldn't say it was I wouldn't say it's that good. It was very slow paced. I felt the first few episodes, and not in a. I mean, it's clearly it's a very deliberate pacing. I would say. I don't think the show was. I think that's by design. But it just was not grabbing me.
Okay.
But you know, I will say the tone of it is very different than your average Star Wars thing. I mean, you really do feel like you're watching like an adult prestige drama set in like, maybe not drama, like it's like an adult prestige, like thriller.
Okay.
Like, thriller, like set in the Star Wars universe. And in that sense, I think that's very impressive because I think you have so many times with Disney properties, especially like the MCU, where they'll say, this movie is actually like a Cold War era thriller, like more than a superhero movie. Then you see it and you go like, okay, yeah, you cast Robert Redford and like, I don't know if that means this is like, you know, like the parallax view or whatever. Right. So like, but like, this is one of those instances where it was kind of described that way, and I was watching it and I was like, this doesn't feel very Star Warsy at all.
Okay.
In fact, I think that is kind of an issue. A lot of people, hardcore Star Wars fans who don't like Andor, kind of have that it's almost so far removed from the feeling of Star Wars.
Okay.
That said, like, I love it when properties like take those kind of swings and do something totally different. But yeah, it didn't grab me. I was impressed by the I was impressed by just like the tone of the show, though. I will say.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, with Star Wars, I'm not into Star Wars. I've long since abandoned any hope of actually trying to get into it anymore. But sometimes I do get in my head. I'm just like, maybe I'll give it another shot. But
right,
it's an uphill battle.
We're on the same page. It's oversaturated. It's exactly how I feel what happened to the MCU, where it's like, all right, this really just feels like a product now. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like there's much of a soul here, and
Absolutely.
I can't get myself invested anymore.
Yep. Same.
And that's to people who love it, awesome. I
Yeah.
wish
Oh, yeah.
I did. But yeah, it's just not hitting me like that.
Same. And finally, in terms of the Emmys, and I'll put a link, of course, to all of the Emmy nominations and everything in the show notes, but comedy series nominees: Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Hacks, Nobody Wants This, Only Murders in the Building, Shrinking, The Studio, and What We Do in the Shadows. Any thoughts on any of those? I've only seen the first episode of The Studio, and everything else I've watched a couple episodes of, like Abbott Elementary and What We Do in the Shadows, but and Only Murders in the Building. But yeah, I'm not equipped to talk about these nominees. How about you?
The Studio I've seen most of, and I really liked it. I think in the second half of the season, the first half of the season is much stronger than I think what I've seen of the latter half so far. But I really do like it. It's probably among the better things Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg have done together. And I would say recent years, probably my favorite thing they've done together since This Is the End.
Oh, nice.
So I would definitely recommend that show. I've only seen the first 2 seasons of The Bear, but it's interesting. They said it's a comedy.
Oh, yeah.
I find that show to not be funny at all. It's actually quite harrowing.
Sure.
So I guess this is just one of those instances where they're like, well, we can't put it in drama. Over stuff. And unfortunately, I think The Bear is one of those shows where, like, the first 2 seasons, people were calling it like the greatest thing on television. And then the third season, there was this weird thing where everybody kind of turned on the show.
Yeah.
And nobody talked about it anymore. So that's kind of funny. So maybe that's why I kind of got demoted to.
Well, yeah, I guess if I have to put my back a horse in this race, I would say The Studio, just because that's the most I'm familiar with. But the Emmys are going to be held on a certain day and time that I don't know where it is. I'm trying to, like, discreetly scroll and I'm filling time here. There's a lot of nominees. Anyway, it's going to be airing at some point, I think in September. It will be hosted by Nate Bargatze and broadcast live Sunday, September 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time on CBS, as well as streamed live and on demand via select packages on Paramount+. So stay tuned for that. We will talk ad nauseum about the Emmy Awards in September. Probably we won't. But it will take up a lot of time in a news before the review segment in September, I'm sure. But yeah, with that, Mitch, do you want to talk about the new Superman film and our feature review this week?
I would love nothing more, my friend.
Nice. Well, we are going to get right to our review. Of course, as is usually the case with the Obsessive Viewer podcast, we're going to do a non-spoiler review followed by a spoiler review. If you want to skip around or if you want to avoid spoilers, I will play a clip from the trailer before we go into spoilers, and I have timestamps to everything in the episode in the show notes of this episode, which are available in your podcast app or in the description or at obsessiveviewer.com/OV483. And yeah, in our non-spoiler review, Superman is currently in theaters. It was released in theaters July 11th, and the premise, according to IMDb, is Superman must reconcile his alien Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing as reporter Clark Kent. As the embodiment of truth, justice, and the human way, he soon finds himself in a world that views these as old-fashioned. Writer and director was James Gunn, of course, based on the comic book Superman. And the cast includes David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Eddie Gathegi, Nathan Fillion, Isabella Marced, Skylar Gisondo, Wendell Pierce, and Michaela Hoover. So, Mitch, in non-spoilers, or really before spoilers, what is your relationship with Superman, and how, like, what of the Superman IP have you watched or consumed? And how do you feel about the character going into Superman 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I love Superman. I've been reading him and watching his movies for the majority of my life. I think I've seen every single live action Superman at some point in my life. Christopher Reeve films, love the first one. Mm-hmm. Love the second one. A lot of people actually don't really. I always thought the second one was great. It's kind of funny as I see like friends of mine and friends of ours like log it on Letterboxd. I see a lot of like 2.5-star reviews. I'm like, oh, is that not like the universally loved movie? But I always loved it. Okay. 3 and 4, pretty terrible. Mm-hmm. Not really worth watching if you haven't seen them. Superman Returns, pretty bland and forgettable from what I remember. I saw it in theaters, I remember, and just never had an urge to revisit those or revisit that one. I'm gonna say something kind of weird here. All right. I kind of like the Zack Snyder Superman movies a little bit.
Okay, interesting.
I don't think. Let me put it this way. I'm going to dabble a little bit. A long time ago, many months ago, I was on your podcast talking about the second Joker movie. If you remember, the Lone Defender. And something I said is that I enjoy, just as a hardcore comic book fan who has read so many interpretations and takes and stories on these kind of beloved characters like Superman, I kind of get a kick out of seeing like a weird take on a character.
Okay.
I think Zack Snyder's trilogy is pretty misguided, and there's some stuff in there that's like pretty indefensible in my opinion. That said, like, I kind of like Batman v Superman, especially of those three, in just kind of a weird Elseworlds way. And for those who don't know, Elseworlds would be like these DC comic book stories they would publish where it was like, here's a alternate universe version of Batman. Like, what if Batman was in the Wild West? Like, or what if Superman was born in Russia? There'd be these different takes. And I kind of like Batman versus Superman in like a weird Elseworlds way of like, hey, what if Superman was like a cold, unfeeling alien? And what if Batman was like a weird fascist psychopath, Is that really like the canonical take I want to see in like the main large budget tentpole movies we get of these characters? No, not really. I think that's a pretty misguided and ill-conceived notion. But I think now that we have like moved past those, I can sort of retroactively appreciate them for these weird, ambitious misfires that they are. Even if I don't necessarily like think they're like good movies in a traditional sense, I can at least just appreciate like, that was a weird take. Like, we'll never get something like that again,
That's really interesting. That's really interesting because I like, now that I like, we talked about it in Patreon and maybe earlier in this episode, but I'm now an expert on all things comic books. But that's really interesting to view that as an Elseworlds thing. I like, eventually I'm going to revisit them and everything, because I'm probably going to do like a Patreon thing. Maybe I'm not going to commit to that. But anyway, I didn't like the Zack Snyder verse because I just don't like Zack Snyder. And he's not
my favorite either.
No, like, and as much as like, this is going to be, I feel like I'm going to be punching down a little bit with this, but like, maybe this is a bit reductive, but it feels like anything in those movies that seem like it's intentional or like an interesting spin on something, I view as more of just like a patent misunderstanding of what makes these characters interesting. And like, maybe that's again reductive and not like, maybe not fair to it, but it's just like, and the weird thing is in the moment, I enjoyed at least the ending of Batman v Superman up until the Martha thing, which Jesus Christ, but like the fight between them, I was like, oh, this is really interesting to see this playing out right now in live action. And I also was pretty favorable on Zack Snyder's Justice League, but Man of Steel, I can't, like, I haven't really been compelled to revisit it in nigh on a decade, probably. And like, I don't know. I don't know.
No, it's fair. I mean, they're very flawed. And to be honest, like, those are movies that only over time did I sort of grow to appreciate, like, and appreciate in kind of a weird, like, you know, like, look at this ugly bug that's on the ground kind
Sure.
of thing, you know, like, and like, this is interesting to me. But I think it was a very, like, unsuccessful attempt, obviously, to kind of kickstart a universe. And I think starting with that kind of vision of Superman does kind of, it doesn't really capture anything about him that makes it interesting. And I think trying to kind of start that series as like a deconstruction of Superman, almost like the complete inverse of like what makes him interesting. I think it was very intentional, but I don't think that was like the right way to approach it. And, you know, so going into this movie, you know, I was very optimistic. I don't think James Gunn has directed a single movie that I've disliked. I've enjoyed everything he's done. I will say that I loved, you know, his last couple movies, Guardians 3 and The Suicide Squad. I loved them both. And I did, coming into Superman, I did feel like around Guardians 3, I go, all right, I've loved everything James Gunn has done so far. I don't know how many more times he can do this is kind of a ragtag group of like misanthropic misfits, you know, that are bound to come together and do something good.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how many more times he could do that. Like, I'm not sick of it yet, but I can see myself starting to be like, all right, this is like the 5th time you've made this movie.
Right. Yes.
And Superman seemed like a really odd choice for him directing wise, because he is not a misanthropic person. He is not cynical. He is like very much like the Boy Scout and incredibly earnest and kind of represents like the best of us morally, which is something Zack Snyder's version really didn't care to focus on at all.
Sure.
And
so in other words, James Gunn made Superman woke.
Yeah. Superman is woke now. He's like a good person.
Yeah.
I have to say, you know, non-spoiler, I thought this movie was a total home run and just like an amazing start to the DC universe. And I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of nervous about this movie. I almost never give a shit about a movie's box office. I just want a movie that I'm seeing to be good. But as someone who's grown up loving DC, the thought of this movie being successful in bringing to life all these other stories, you know, he's announced a Swamp Thing movie, an Authority movie, you know, these kind of C tier properties, at least not in my heart, they're A tier, but you know, the public visibility, they're definitely lower tier. I want to see these stories. I want to see this universe explored more. So I was very nervous kind of how this would do. And man, did I think James Gunn knocked it out of the park. I think, just to state it briefly, first and foremost, what this movie nails is the characters. This movie gives you characters that you just want to spend more time with.
Yes.
There is no understating just how amazing David Cornsweet is in this role. I mean, what a find this guy is. And I know this isn't his first film, but he just nails that like earnest, do good nature to him. He sells it so well. But also, this is a unique spin on Superman that we haven't seen in movies before, because this is a version, and I'm not pointing out anything that other people haven't said, I'm sure, but this is a vulnerable Superman.
Yes. Not
just emotionally, he's vulnerable. The first scene when one of the first scenes when Lois is interviewing him, he starts to lose his cool and shout. What an amazing scene! But also, you don't see Superman kind of be temperamental like that, or get emotional like that very often, especially not in the movies. That's not how Christopher Reeve played him.
Right.
That's definitely not how Henry Cavill played him, which was like extremely stoic and brooding. And not only that, he's like physically vulnerable, which I thought was such an interesting choice. This Superman is getting his ass kicked from like the very first scene that you see him.
Yep.
And I thought that was just such a cool take. It was like, no, his strength is his ability to always do the right thing, you know, and to want the best. Like, that's kind of his unwavering strength. And, you know, this isn't the invincible kind of godlike character that Zack Snyder, or even like Christopher Reeve to a lesser extent, kind of represented in these movies. So the take on this character, the performance was unbelievable. And the supporting cast too. Amazing version of Lois Lane here.
Yep.
By Rachel Brosnahan. Jimmy Olsen, Skylar Gisondo,
yeah.
Her pitch perfect casting. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, sniveling, amazing. And, you know, even the kind of Justice Gang that we get here of Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner. These are such fun, awesome characters that when they come on screen, you're like, yes, we're back with these guys again, you know? And so it just creates these characters that you want to spend more time with. And even the biggest success of all is, this is not a universe. This is the jump starting of a whole new DC universe, right? Yes, there was like Creature Commandos and stuff, but like this is like the real big introduction of it.
Yeah.
And this does not feel like the MCU at all.
Nope.
What an amazing feat that is. And what I mean is, like, this leans into its own comic bookiness in a way that the MCU did not. You know, for all the great things that the MCU did, especially in its like first 10 years, it really did feel like this is our world, but there's these superheroes in it, right? Like, what if Iron Man existed in our world? And then it started to get really kind of convoluted, where it's like, actually, the Fantastic Four have been here for 60 years ago. And also, Miss Marvel was there. We just didn't tell anyone about it. You know, it started to kind of buckle under the weight of its own stuff. But, you know, it didn't feel like an exciting world, right? The thing about the MCU was just the characters were so great. And you kind of wanted to see the story that was being told. But this is like a world where there's like pocket universes, flying dogs. You know, when they first showed that teaser image of Crypto, I was like, man, that's a wild swing to put a flying dog. In this movie, it fits right in because everything is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Everything is crazy. And they don't explain. They don't go, hey, this is what the Green Lantern is. This is who he is, right? They might give you a little lip service here and there. I think the only thing they do to explain his powers is just have it when you first see him, you just see his ring shoot at this green thing, and that's it, right? So it doesn't feel like the MCU. It's this wacky, crazy world where kaiju can show up, and you know, all this wild stuff can happen, and it totally works. I have a couple nitpicks that we can get into in spoilers.
Sure.
I think I could have traded a couple subplots for just honestly like more time with some of these. I think there are some quieter moments between like Lois and Clark, and like Clark and his parents. stuff where those are like the best scenes of the whole movie. And, I think, a movie's doing something well when you're like, man, like, can we like just be here for a little bit longer,
Yep.
But then again, the movie moves at such a wonderful pace. It is just an adventure. You are locked in. It feels like you're watching literally like you're picked up halfway through a different movie.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't even see the inciting incident
No.
that spurns all this action between these two countries. There's so much to talk about. The way it kind of comments on current political and social themes without being annoying about it.
Right.
Or being wink, wink. And honestly, some of this has to be incidental. Like, I think the Israel-Palestine kind of parallels here. This movie was being filmed before that current thing was even happening, but like, you can't not think about that while you're watching.
Yeah, it was funny, not to go off on a tangent here, just really quickly. It was really fun. I saw like a tweet or something that was like, it said like, oh, Gen Z or whoever is saying like, well, or trying to say like, well, how can this be a stand-in for Israel and Palestine when this movie was being made before October 7th? And it's like, honey.
right. Like, well, and listen, it can be a stand-in for Russia and Ukraine, or there's a million countries that have had this kind of conflict, but I just think it shows how universal the conflicts and the themes of this movie are, that it feels prescient without being like wink, wink, wink. We don't have a bad guy walk in with a fucking spray tan and big ass blonde hair. We don't need that, because the movie works as its own story. It's just touching on some pretty universal themes.
Yeah.
So I loved it. I thought it was great. And man, I mean, James Gunn, I was hesitant when he announced himself as the director. I will not question him again, because he really nailed it.
Yes. So I agree. I'm so excited to get into this with you, because as someone who, again, I'm now an expert on all things comic books, but like, in my recent experience of just starting to get like more into comics and reading and everything, and really divorcing myself, or my mental hang up of like needing to have everything like chronological and having to like experience everything, like the idea that I can just drop in on a storyline or something and still like get it. Like there's context to the bigger like series and everything, but like I can drop in and read Batman Hush, and like really take that story in without needing to know like, oh, how did this whole series of Batman start and get to that point? And
right. In Hush, you have characters like Jason Todd and Huntress, or all these kind of side characters, and the comic is just sort of like, you get the gist.
And that's
that's what this is doing.
That's exactly how I felt with Superman, and that it has to be completely by design. Like you mentioned that it doesn't look like the MCU, and I'm so gobsmacked by that, because throughout the entire existence of the DCEU, like my frustration with it, the way that I was just banging my head against the wall thinking like, how are they messing this up so much when Marvel is doing it so well? And like, why don't they just do what Marvel's doing? Why do they have to do something different? And like, I've long thought like, there should be like an easy way to do this as established by the MCU. But this Superman has opened my eyes to that. Like, I didn't need an MCU clone, because this is its own thing. Like, from the opening moment, like you said, we don't see the inciting incident with the war or anything. We don't see the beginning of the fight that happens at the beginning. We get like title stuff, and we're just thrown in. And that, again, like I said, I'm a self-appointed expert on all things comic books now. That felt like I just dropped in on a Superman run, and like I don't like it. It felt so comfortable, And because of that, the world was just fully formed, complete. And to your point about the difference between the MCU and now the DCU, having the MCU being built on this kind of just like our world with these colorful superhero characters inhabiting it, it's so refreshing to come to this where everything's vibrant. There's this lived in thing of like the metahumans exist and everything is just, taken as how it is. This is the norm. And the fact that we're not going to, according to what I've read and what I've seen James Gunn say, and Peter Safran, say is that this isn't going to be like a blanket thing where it's like, okay, now that we've had this, that every movie's going to have the same tone. It's going to be the same thing. God. Right?
Thank God.
Absolutely.
That was Marvel's Achilles heel, ultimately, with that. It all looked and felt the same after a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And incidentally, yeah, when that's one of the reasons why I feel that Guardians of the Galaxy was so great, because that's like, it's a cosmic adventure. It's like, it was so different from everything before.
And think that the next two movies are, okay, Supergirl, that's not that crazy of a next step because, there are ways in which this movie sets that up. Very cleverly, though, in my opinion. And that's going to be an intergalactic space, like cosmic adventure. And also next year, the two movies on the slate that are confirmed are that and an R-rated Clayface movie written by Mike Flanagan. I
can't believe we live this now. This is amazing.
Sounds like what James Gunn said is that, hey, what's going to kind of connect is that if a character shows up in something else, the character is consistent. Like, that is that character. However, it sounds like visually, tonally, the style of these films can be completely separate. And I really hope they follow through with that. And it sounds like, by all intents and purposes, they will. It just really sounds like James Gunn has the right approach to this. And like you said, Matt, it's like, I can't believe I'm this excited about it.
Me too.
I haven't felt this way. And so
yes,
it's such a treat.
Oh yeah. It's so refreshing. And we'll get into like the story beats and everything, of course, but it's just so, it's so refreshing to have this be the start of what will be a long running franchise universe and everything. And just like coming out of the gate with this it builds so much confidence. And sure, throughout in the coming years, we'll have stuff it's not going to work, or there's things it's going to ebb and flow, but what a great start. And again, to echo what you said, David Cornsweet, oh my God.
Unbelievable casting.
Incredible.
Unbelievable casting.
Yeah, that scene.
I remember him in Pearl, and he was great in Pearl. But, he was just, you never would have expected that he had this in him.
Oh, yeah, same. A simple line, this isn't really a spoiler, but just when he's talking about crypto, and he's the way that he says, he's out there, he's a dog, not a good dog, but he's out there alone and he's probably afraid. And just the care, the sentiment of that, it's oh my God, this is fucking beautiful.
Well, think about even a movie I liked Zack Snyder's Justice League, but when Superman finally comes in at the end of that movie, you're not necessarily Superman is here, right? You're just cool. I mean, he literally comes in and murders fucking that guy in cold blood. And, it's just completely brutal. But the reason you're happy to see him is just because you're yes, he's going to kill he's the one who is powerful enough to kill this guy.
Yeah.
But like here, you see Superman, and you're like, I fucking love this guy.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, this guy is the best. And you know, when you see him pop up in something else now, you're gonna be so delighted. And I mean, it's funny. I know Peacemaker's season 2 is gonna be now in this world, and I really hope. I'm more interested to see Peacemaker season 2 just because I'm like, cool. Like maybe Superman will show up in this.
Oh yeah. It's So to actually talk about the movie itself, like one of the things about Superman as a character, I have not read any Superman stuff. I in my primer to seeing this movie, I went and watched several episodes of the Superman animated series, which, brief aside, Superman is voiced by Tim Daly. And that was in the 90s, and I just thought it's kind of interesting that he was voicing Superman as he was playing Joe Hackett on Wings, and it's just like, oh, he had 2 characters that flew. But anyway, the kind of common sort of critique or the common criticism of Superman as a character is like, oh, he's overpowered. Oh, he's like too godlike. Like there's nothing, like, sure, he's allergic to kryptonite, but that's like, he's too overpowered. Like, how does you make him interesting? And like, granted, I don't know how that's done in the comics or anything, but in this movie, it is so focused on Superman as this just inherently good person, and the kind of vulnerability that he has in addition to kryptonite is this vulnerability where he sees the good in everything. He sees hope, and he has this like very optimistic ideal that's born from him being raised in Kansas, and like having these like very sweet and tender, like middle America values and everything, that's not corrupted by MAGA. And that is like this at times vulnerability. And what this movie, in my opinion, does an amazing job at showing us that it is at times a bit of a vulnerability, but it's him discovering how much of a strength it is in him. And I can't imagine a more just amazing portrayal of Superman as a symbol for everything that he stands for. And I just, like, as Gen Z says, James Gunn understood the assignment. It's giving great movie. So
it is giving great movie. And I think you hit the nail on the head that I think James Gunn really understood that, and you know, he gives, well, we'll get into that in spoilers, but you know, I guess it's not a spoiler, but like he kind of gives a monologue on like kind of what makes him human at one point.
I like Superman. That was so, it was one of the best scenes of the movie, in a movie that's filled with best scenes.
Exactly. And I think James Gunn very smartly went to the approach of, well, we need to hone in on what makes him human. Again, and I hate to just be a fucking terminally online person comparing Zack Snyder and James Gunn, because I think I posted in our group chat last night of like, I love how the internet needs to create this non-existent like feud between James Gunn and Zack Snyder. Like that does not exist. By all accounts, they're like good friends. Yeah, but
they did a dual cameo appearance on Rick and Morty.
Right, but of course it has to be, you know, this bitter feud.
Yeah,
and you know what Zack Snyder did was he thought, oh, what if this god lived among people? What would that be like? Right. That was kind of what the approach he wanted to take. And this is very much like, okay, there's a God that lives among people, but like, what makes him human? Like, what makes him a hero? You know? And it's not, and it's funny because it actually doesn't totally abandon some of those themes that are like introduced in Man of Steel and stuff in terms of like, how would the public perceive him? Like, what would geopolitical relations look like? I mean, that stuff is still like very much a part of the plot. It's not, it doesn't dwell in it. It doesn't, you know, but it does incorporate that stuff too, which I found interesting.
It's also really interesting that like this, they're calling them chapters, not phases, but this like chapter of the DCU is subtitled Gods and Monsters. Like it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I think I think what James Gunn is the best at is characters. Like he knows how to endear you to a character. And he still continues in this movie is one thing I love about James Gunn is James Gunn goes, what are the weirdest, most obscure DC or Marvel characters that I can choose? I'm going to make you love those characters. Like these characters nobody gives a shit about or knows about, you know, in the Suicide Squad, right? He has like King Shark, and in Guardians of the Galaxy, there's like Rocket Raccoon, these characters that nobody knew who the hell they were. And in here we have characters like Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific, who is a very obscure character. And here, Mr. Terrific is like one of the best parts of the movie.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things I was going to kind of say as not necessarily a critique, but not to just heap praise upon the movie. But
yeah, I know.
One of the things that I found myself kind of not necessarily struggling with, but trying to get past is it is like you said, it is a very Superman as a character is very different from what we've seen from like the style that James Gunn has done in previous movies of his oeuvre. And to his credit, everything Superman, Lois, Lex Luthor, all of that, like nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. The thing that I kind of felt like a little bit slightly fatigued with is like, yeah, okay, as someone who, even though I'm a self-appointed expert on all things comic books now, I'm like, I don't know Mr. Terrific. I don't know Guy Gardner. I don't know Hawk Girl or Metamorpho. I'm like, I just felt like, okay, this is James Gunn doing his James Gunn thing where he has these like misfit sort of characters that he's putting in there. And like, there were times in this movie where I was like, okay, like I don't need to see like these like more obscure characters that aren't like big, like Justice League style, like standout characters. But throughout the course of the movie, Mr. Terrific is incredibly endearing. Like he like stole so many scenes for me. Like that there's a set piece with him going to like in a kind of desert or beach setting that is so awesome. It's so badass.
It's probably the best action scene of the whole movie.
Oh yeah. So cool. And like by the end of this movie, I was like, okay, yeah. And like Guy Gardner, I mean, Nathan Fillion is fantastic. And I'm like, even though that is the most James Gunn style in this movie.
He could have been in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie and you would have
100%. Oh yeah. So if I do have a criticism, it is that it did feel at times a little bit like James Gunn at times with those characters was not necessarily resting on his laurels, but he was going back to what he is known for and is good at. But it felt a little bit too like Guardians-y in a Superman movie. But yeah,
I can see what you're saying. And I you know, what's funny is in the moment, I wasn't thinking like, oh, we're in Guardians mode, but like looking in retrospect, I'm like, yes, these are very much he still does include those types of characters in here, but they are supporting players. And I think he didn't need to include them at all, I guess. I mean, in a way, right? He could have tried to write just Superman as the only hero, but I guess he needed to establish this universe where it's like, hey, Superman's not the only hero, right? We're not going to have Bruce Wayne come in at the end and talk about the Justice League Initiative, right? Which
not to spoil, I'm so glad with the way that the mid credits and end credits scenes went. Like, we'll talk in spoilers, but
they were completely. On one hand, the movie I don't even think needed them.
No,
but on the other hand, it was kind of great that it was just like, we just made a good movie.
Yes,
like we just made a good movie. Like think of even stuff dating back to as far as like Iron Man 2 or like Avengers Age of Ultron, where the movies would just stop dead in their tracks to be like, here's Black Widow. She's stealing some files that are really going to be important in a future movie.
Yep.
But you completely remove that scene from the movie and it would be better for it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's like, oh, here's Thor. He's going to walk up to a mystical hot tub and that's going to set up, Thor Ragnarok.
Jesus,
right?
I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's like the kind of stuff where it's just like, sort of like, it feels sweaty. And here in this movie, it's like, there's really just one cameo that's clearly kind of setting up something else. It also resolves a plot point and explains something in the movie that is satisfying and fun. So it's the best kind of cameo where you go, oh, like, I'd like to see more of that person. That seems fun.
Oh, yeah.
But and again, it doesn't feel explicitly like it's trying to set up a future installment. So I'm really just impressed by how deft this movie is and how it sets up a universe, this whole new universe we're going to explore, but it doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like it's overexerting itself or it's bending over backwards.
Right.
It just shows you this world and you kind of understand that, like, hey, there's more adventures to be had here. And yeah, so I do think, while some of those characters were a little familiar and kind of that they're sort of like being the cynical heroes and stuff like that, I think they were fun and they were enough of side characters to not weigh the thing down, because ultimately, like, Superman is like the driving force of this whole movie.
Yeah.
And he really does. It does feel like a perfect take on the character. I can't even believe this. Like, this to me is the first superhero casting, I don't know in how long, where I feel like this has the potential to be a Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man or a Hugh Jackman as Wolverine level of casting. Honestly, even like they kind of ran this bit into the ground. He's too much of a one-dimensional character, but like even like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool at the time felt like a perfect fit.
Jonathan Majors as Kang.
Well, that's the big one. That you can't even beat. But this feels like already, like, this feels like it has potential to be one of those castings. Because when I'm watching, I'm just like, that's Superman. And how often do you feel that about a superhero character? Like,
and especially a superhero character that, like, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., like, obviously there was a lot of history there with Robert Downey Jr., and it's a great, like, comeback story and everything for his career. But in terms of, like, live action, like, Iron Man didn't exist in live action or anything. Like, he was able to kind of create that character with, the Jon Favreau and everything in live action. Here, like David Cornsweet he's like this is, Christopher Reeve and
He is becoming Superman,
yeah.
rather as I think Iron Man kind of became Robert Downey Jr.
Yes, yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yep.
Yeah. And this is like, you are Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and to me, the fact that this guy is basically an unknown, which is funny how I mentioned I saw this movie with my dad and we were driving home, and I was like, it's funny how Superman is they always cast an unknown.
Oh yeah.
In the role, right? Or a relative unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Batman, it has to be a big name actor.
Yeah.
Right? Every time. And I just thought that was interesting. And I was like, thank God they didn't cast a big name.
Oh yeah. Yep.
This. Because I felt like that made this character, the introduction to this character, so much more magical. You know, you're not going, oh, that's John Hamm. I've seen him in Mad Men.
Right.
Like that, you know, or whatever. It just was this, it was just Superman. So
yeah. I'm personally upset that they didn't bring back Dean Cain, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's still in his prime.
Yeah.
America was calling his name, but
he has definitely some interesting ideas.
Like
yeah. It just, God, this was such a great experience. And it's funny, I was looking at David Cornsweet's IMDb. Obviously, like in last year, he was in Twisters, and I remember seeing that he got the word that he was cast as Superman while filming Twisters, and I remember like seeing like the cast of Twisters like celebrating with him or something, and that was very, very charming. Anyway.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I mean, he seems like a class act.
Oh,
like
yeah.
A very, very nice guy. And and I mean, honestly, to a degree, you could almost say that about like everybody in this cast.
Oh, yeah.
It's perfect for the role.
And
and even somebody like but I think this is both the movie's strength. Nicholas Hoult is an amazing Lex Luthor. We can get about, I think when we get into spoilers, we can go, I have like a little bit of nitpicks about his character. I wish there was a little, maybe just a little more to
piss in a jug. Jolly Ranchers got it.
Where is the jar of piss? That's what I kept asking. But to me, I think where they do a great job humanizing Superman, I don't necessarily feel like they totally humanize Lex Luthor. I think maybe there's a little bit more. I know he's driven by very human flaws of like jealousy and rage and stuff like that, but he is still very much like I am a pure evil guy and I exist to just do pure evil things and I'm bad.
Sure.
And there's never a moment I felt like where I kind of was like, I think the best villains most of the time, not always, but you can definitely list some great counterexamples. But for the most part, a lot of these great comic book villains are ones that you feel this kind of like twinge of sympathy for at times.
Yeah.
You know? I think maybe like, you know, you could say like Heath Ledger's Joker is obviously there's nothing human about him.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a rare exception. But
sure.
like I think maybe just a little more from him. But I think, you know, almost any of my complaints about this movie is that it's just such a roller coaster ride, which is what I love that about this movie. But sometimes I think we gloss over some things, just kind of to keep the ride going. And that's not a bad problem to have. There's just, you know, like I said, I think there are just times where I just want to get a little more from these characters. And again, look, maybe that's by design. I think James Gunn wants you to want more, right? Like, you want more. Like you want to see more Lex Luthor. You want to see more Superman. So,
you know, I agree. We'll talk more in spoilers with Lex Luthor, but I thought Nicholas Hoult did a fantastic job. But yeah, I do agree. There's some not necessarily heavy lifting that we have to do as the audience, but there's stuff that's kind of left unsaid that we're kind of meant to fill in the blanks with, and that seems like it could be a little bit of a detriment to the movie, rather than having it be something that's more overt or more obvious rather. or more well drawn, I would say. Yeah. But
do you want? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna start transitioning over to spoilers if you want.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, yeah. What did you rate this on Letterboxd, and will it be on your top 10?
I gave it a 4 out of 5, but I am almost certain that this would go up to a 4.5 out of 5 when I watch this again.
Nice.
I think it's just a movie. Like I said, it's just so fast paced, and you're just in it that you almost don't have time to breathe. And
yeah,
I feel like when I watch it again, I'm gonna appreciate it so much more. So I just think DC has such a special place in my heart. This is feels like such a monumentous event in DC history, and so something. There's no way this isn't in my top 10 of the year. I think by the end.
Nice. I rated it 4.5 stars. It's definitely gonna be in my top 10. And in spoilers, I might talk a little bit about an interesting thing I'm seeing in my current top 10. But anyway, loved this movie. Can't wait to talk spoilers about it with you. So without further ado, let's go into spoilers for Superman.
All right.
Of course, check the show notes for timestamps if you want to bounce around the spoiler section. But I'm going to play a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling Superman.
Your choices, your actions, that's what makes you who you are.
Superman. He's not a man. He's an it. He's somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation. I will not accept that.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
All right, so spoilers on for Superman. And Mitch, I'm going to kind of just go on a little bit of a tangent. We don't have to harp too much on like the politics of this or the conversation surrounding it by idiot MAGA people who don't understand media literacy or anything. But something I find interesting is that my top 10, like I have a running list, obviously. I've watched like over 50 movies released in 2025 so far this year. And as I'm kind of evaluating what will be on my top 10, I'm noticing an interesting trend that I just find interesting. So, my like current top 3 movies, are of course The Life of Chuck, 28 Years Later, and Superman. So what I find interesting about that is the world that we live in right now. It's terrible. It's like it's just, listen to the B-roll episode. It's just a lot of stuff going on, current political climate, all of that, just very terrible stuff. So it's interesting to me that my top 10 so far is shaping up to be very much focused, at least the top 3 that I just counted, are focused on very like life-affirming, hopeful, like ideas on film. Like Life of Chuck is a beautiful like celebration of life, and 28 Years Later is a very unexpected coming of age like story that has hope about it in unexpected places.
Yeah, it's like retaining your humanity in like the most dire circumstances.
Oh yeah. And then Superman is just like, Jesus Christ. Like it is.
Yeah, like do the right thing and be a good guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, so we can talk a little bit about the political implications of this, but like I love that this is the Superman movie that came out now. That this is the Superman movie that we get while we have like ICE rounding up people without due process and deporting them and taking them to fucking detention centers and like surrounded by alligators, just hateful, horrible things. Which, by the way, I will quickly say, I've been volunteering with Coin a local organization called Coalition for Our Immigrant Neighbors. Check it out if you feel like donating to them. They need all the help they can get. But anyway, that like this idea in this movie about how it's showing like this, it's showing us a mirror to some of the darkest things in our world, but it's packaging it, or it's depicting it as like the Superman idea of truth, justice, and the American way, or the human way. Like, it's just like, it is so hopeful and optimistic, and we love seeing him overcome everything, and we love seeing success, even if in the real world, a media outlet posting a highly incriminating, horrible expose, or not horrible expose, but like an incriminating expose about a very prominent billionaire who is a horrible human being, and then that billionaire ending up in handcuffs and being arrested and everything. Even if that's not something that exists in our world, unfortunately, it's so comforting to see it happen. There's a catharsis there.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, thoughts on that as I alienate half of my listeners. Please, if you have any problems with that, I don't want you listening to this, honestly. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I would say that, like, I think the best piece that I read on Superman and sort of political implications, and I think I completely agree with this, is I'll just read the headline here. It's by Alison Wilmore, who's a film critic for Vulture. And her review of Superman, the headline is, "Superman isn't trying to be political. We just have real life supervillains now."
Yes.
And I think that is like a perfect summation of it. Whereas like everything in this movie is derived from comics that are decades and decades and decades old. Now, okay, I think there are a couple things, specifically like the chimps, like all typing, blasting Superman on social media.
Hashtag super shit.
That obviously feels a little more timely, but that's about a 5-second shot, right? In that movie. But for the most part, I mean, like the implications of like Lex Luthor, the like corrupt billionaire, all these things, trying to use the media to sway the public's opinion on Superman and things like that. Like all of these are like extremely old, like tropes and plot devices from Superman stories and tons of comic book stories. And I genuinely believe, like, I don't think James Gunn set out to make this movie and go, "Oh, I'm really going to stick it to MAGA and Elon Musk." And because I honestly think he's a more clever filmmaker than that he wouldn't resort to just sort of like cheap, obvious references that kind of yank the viewer out of the movie. It's just, he's just, like I said earlier in our review, like he's just speaking to things that have always been relevant and will continue to be relevant. And there's just some very unfortunate coincidences, I think, that, with the people we have in power, like it's hard not to look at Elon Musk and like Lex Luthor as like very kind of similar characters. But, it sucks that our world is like this, but it is deeply satisfying to see such a positive and hopeful movie that speaks on these things, but doesn't dwell in the misery of how doomed and rotten things seems. Shows that, like, hey, in this world, goodness wins out. People doing the right thing wins out. And, it gives you hope that maybe in this world that will happen. Someday. I don't know. It's that, and if not, it's at least nice to have this kind of escapist fantasy.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because when you, like, we've talked about how, it's most likely not something that is baked in as a direct critique of like real world events. I was thinking about that in terms of like the cheeky thing I was going to say was like here in like 40 or 50 years, if there's still a planet, then like Gen Delta or whatever will come back and watch Superman and be like, oh, wow, Superman was way ahead of its time. This is just like what's going on with President Zizorp and like the like new Brazil conflict or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean though.
Yeah. But it's really interesting just to see this done. And it's also interesting because I don't know if I read this. I feel like I read that James Gunn said somewhere that he did kind of channel his own like weird canceling experience into this.
That does seem a little, and you know, you could have an uncharitable reading of that being like, so was he comparing himself to Superman? Like he's Superman?
Oh, interesting. I didn't think about it that way.
Like Superman kind of gets canceled, you know, just like James Gunn sort of got canceled, but you know, I don't really want to read it that way. It's more just being like, hey, this is how, you know, the people can kind of send an army of shit talkers online.
Yes.
To just attack you.
Yeah. Bad faith actors who are looking to dig things up in order to fuck up your life. Like one of the big things since that, for context, if people are listening who aren't aware, James Gunn was briefly fired from Disney because some Trump supporting people had dug up some edgy tweet jokes from years and years ago, like the early days of Twitter, which are not good jokes, like they're offensive jokes and everything. And that resulted in him getting canceled and getting fired from Guardians 3. And like the thing that I greatly dislike about that, and obviously it all worked out for him. In fact, I kind of feel like we got this because of that. Because that led him to take on the Suicide Squad and all of that. But the thing about that, and like there's kind of an interesting light comparison to make to like Gina Carano, whatever her name is. Where like those tweets were dug up specifically because people didn't like his politics, and he made them before he was on Disney's payroll, before he was even a big enough name to be considered to be a director for Disney and Marvel. And like Gina Carano or whatever her name is, like she was employed by Disney and tweeting like very anti-Semitic and very hateful things. Like there's like morality clauses, like it's the play stupid games, win stupid prizes or whatever. It's just an interesting thing, but yeah.
Yes. No, absolutely. And yeah, no, I mean, it's cool how this makes you think about those kind of modern social and political themes or topics without being all about them. It's still very much a kind of classic Superman story in all of these ways. And honestly, if we're going to get into like, if we get into spoilers, I'll just say like my only nitpicks are like just a couple of things. But the movie is such a joy that they don't bother me that much. My biggest thing that bugs me is I'm just really sick of the hero has to fight clone version of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I get how it fits into the plot and it explains how they got into the Fortress of Solitude. I understand that. Because when they do that, you're like, huh? How'd they do that? So I understand for a plot reason how that comes back. And I actually saw like Kevin Smith said something where he's like, oh, Ultraman getting sucked into that like alternate world at the end or whatever, that like black hole. That's like Bizarro, right? That's like how Bizarro gets born.
Oh, interesting.
And I didn't think about that, but I was like, oh, that actually kind of tracks. So that could pay off later. That said, I felt like when they did that in Logan, I was kind of like, oh, this is already tired. And then when the big reveal is like, I cloned you, I was just like, this is like one too many weird plot things where I would have just been fine with Ultraman just being like a robot or something. I don't know. Like, so it's like a nitpick. It's not just that. And I did think that fight scene between Superman and Ultraman was the only part where I felt like the CG got a little wonky.
Oh, yeah.
But again, it's just kind of like a nitpick. And, you know, the movie is so comic booky that I can see how it turns off some people, because the movie constantly introduces all these crazy sci-fi things that can happen and never gives you any explanation for any of them.
Right.
And I can see how some people might be like, ooh, could we even have just a little bit of like logic behind some of these? It didn't bother me too much, but like the only time I noticed it was like when Mr. You know, when they translate what say, and Mr. Terrific goes, I know those interpreters. They would never mess this up.
Right.
It's like, okay, so I guess just like don't question it. Like it's absolutely real. You know, I just thought there's like a lot of like little things like that where it's just like, yeah. No, we translated it and it's real.
Yeah.
You know,
that was so that did feel very brushed aside to the point where I was like, oh, that can't really be like that's a ploy by Lex Luthor to get under Superman's skin. Like that's clearly like not it. And it is, which I found interesting. But it did feel like that was one point where I was like, maybe we should have had like a little bit more.
I liked how that was kind of a risky diversion from the source material of being like, hey, Jor-El, like his dad, is actually not like a great dude.
Yeah.
Or you know, it's just maybe on Krypton he's a great dude, but it's like, oh, like they're kind of like weird, like dictator types, like fascist types
which
Krypton.
Is so interesting because that feels like there's, like we talked about in non-spoilers, there's no bad blood between James Gunn and Zack Snyder. There's not like, I don't think there's anything like the internet runs wild with crazy people and crazy things, but it does feel interesting when judged against or compared against the DCEU and Zack Snyder's version of things. It's so interesting to see like, oh, this depiction of Jor-El and the message for Clark is so like it's to again kind of borrow Gen Z, it's very Snyderverse coded, but it does feel like it's so interesting because it does kind of feel like a little bit not intentional, but it feels like, oh, James Gunn is doing something unique and different that felt tonally like what the previous iteration of this character was kind of going for in some places, or like the overall vibe, but he's fitting it into a more realistic version or more true to the source version of the character. So I don't know. I found that really interesting.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. Like there are tonally and kind of Superman's characterization couldn't be more different than the Zack Snyder version, which is obviously intentional. Like it would be weird. It would be weird if we got like another broody Superman. Right. You know, you'd be like, okay, we're redoing the whole thing just to do this again.
In other words, this one is good.
Right, exactly. It's like, and you know, but it is kind of cool that like there are like little threads that Zack Snyder might have introduced that were kind of interesting, but just not explored in a really meaningful way, or not super coherent. Yeah. And James Gunn was kind of like, you know, potentially was like, oh, I kind of like that concept. Like I'll, you know, because that does feel like something that would be in Man of Steel that people would get upset about, which is what Jor-El in Man of Steel was like a really good person, but but that feels like something Zack Snyder would have done. That feels very Snyder-esque, like you said.
Absolutely.
And but yeah, it's cool, but it also wraps into the theme in such an amazing way of like you are your choices and like what you stand for, and like your real parents are like who raised you, like that's who instilled you with these values.
Yes.
And everyone's commented on this, but like Ma and Pa Kent.
Oh my God.
How cool was it to make them look like actual Kansas farmers?
Yes. Oh my God. Amazing. Yeah.
Like never done that before.
Yeah.
Ever. It's always like a really handsome, rugged dude playing Pa Kent. And this time it's just like, no, these are like country folk who like live in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just nice people.
They're nice people. And it's not, and what's so interesting about it also is that it's not done with any hint of parody or any kind of like, there's not like that part in the trailer that I clipped for the bringing us into spoilers section, where she's like, yeah, I clean your boots and I'll go get them for you. Like, there's not like a hint of like, it's not like, oh, Hollywood is just like showing what they think it is. Like, this is a very genuine, realistic view of like middle America, which I think is so important for Superman as a character to show, especially this version of Superman, which, as we said, it's exploring his vulnerabilities that are from his upbringing as like middle America, flyover state, country guy, living in a big city and fighting like evildoers and stuff with superpowers. Like, it's so that kind of inner conflict with him that's also demonstrated beautifully with that interview scene with him and Lois. Jesus Christ, that was incredible.
Amazing. When that scene was going on, I was like, oh, this movie's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Like, when I was into it, but like when that scene happened, honestly though, like even when they showed, I mean, I think this is purposely misdirection from the marketing, but when they show in the marketing, you know, that trailer that opens with Superman like on the ground, like all bloody, like and like crypto drags, and you're like, oh, that's gonna be like
the
big
finale
moment in like the third act. I thought it was just like, I mean, even the misdirect of like, I was waiting for like the record scratch, like, were you wondering how I got here, you know? And like the fact that I'm like, oh, we're just starting the movie here, like, and this is just, we're picking you up in the middle of a Superman adventure, because guess what? Superman's always in some adventure, right? This is just Lex Luthor's latest attempt to foil him. And I mean, this movie is so good and it's so distinct. It's doing something new with this character. It really is like, it really is to me like the best case scenario for comic book movies, where it is true to the character, captures the spirit of the source material of what, and I'm not saying like, oh, you need to follow the lore exactly, and it needs to be exactly A to B, like how the comics are. I just mean like you capture the appeal of like what people like about this character, but you have a filmmaker who is imprinting his own distinct vision and giving you his own unique interpretation of the character. So it is a classic iteration of a character seen in a new way, with like cool flourishes you haven't seen before. You know, I mean, like that is like exactly what you want and what the best superhero movies do, right?
Yes.
That's why the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight movies were so great, because the essence of who Batman is in those, and like who the Joker is and who Alfred is and all that stuff, right? That is very much like who they are in the comics, but like those movies are also Christopher Nolan as fuck, right?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
And like that is what's so cool about those. And you know, I think the problem with the MCU after a while was just like, yes, like you get these characters pretty right, but like all of the characters kind of start to feel the same. They all have the same like quips and humor.
Yeah.
And like this doesn't feel like every time I'm seeing a new movie that I'm like, oh, this is from the perspective of this filmmaker. It's like, oh, it's all from Kevin Feige's perspective.
Right.
It is all from Kevin Feige. And it's just like when you're on movie 39, it's just like, all right, like I'm like, okay, cool. Thunderbolts. I'm sure it's like a cool movie, but it's just like, I'm just burnt out,
Yeah. I totally get that.
And I'm so relieved because my biggest fear of this new DC universe was that it was just going to be like, hey, we're just going to try to do what Marvel did. Because like the movies didn't feel like Batman v Superman doesn't feel like a Marvel movie, right?
Right.
But they were trying to mimic Marvel in the worst ways of like, let's set up all these characters really, really fast.
Yeah. Build up to Justice League in 4 movies.
Yeah. It's like that, like, was like their big mistake. But this is like, it's its own thing. It feels organic and like, man, yeah. Feeling good. Good, man.
Same here. And really quick, because we can start winding down here because we're running a little long. But going back to the Lex Luthor stuff, I found that like toward the end where he's having those like moments where he's like I think it's when he's talking to Superman and they're having like basically laying it all out, and he's talking about how I think that's when he's talking to Superman. I don't know. He's basically saying that like it feels like there's a sense of inadequacy. He says that he's envious of Superman, and I feel like there's something there that's not that it could have been depicted a little bit stronger, but there's something there to how he is internalizing like this idea that like Lex Luthor is by all accounts a genius billionaire person. Like he's evil and everything, but like he has that baked in hatred towards Superman because he's not from here. He doesn't know anything about him, but he's not from here. He deserves to be, locked away without due process and alligator Alcatraz. But anyway, he's not someone who is he views him as a threat without understanding who he is as a human. Like he even says like he's an it. And it's just, I found that to be really interesting in terms of a villain characterization, even if it is slightly undercooked.
But yeah, but you know what? Now that you put it that way, you're like, well, you know what? Like when people have such a hatred for somebody else, like it's usually not super rational,
right?
Like it's usually not extremely rational. Like when you have this kind of prejudice, right? It's based on like usually typically these broad stereotypes and like oftentimes like just a fear of the unknown, right? Like that. I don't understand this, so it scares me, right? Which is a very human reaction to things that are unknown, and so like now that you put it that way, it's like, yeah, like it does, like and he's this dude who's so egotistical that like the thought of being like, well, this person makes me look weak, right?
Yes.
Like this person can do things that I could never do, and like. I hate that, and I'm like a power hungry little worm. So like, I'm going to just eliminate this person. Yeah. It's like, it's very comic booky and ridiculous and like the lengths he goes to. And he's like, seems to be willing to like spend unlimited resources to defeating him. But like, it's, it's a comic book movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And, no, I mean, I think it's wonderful. And to me, this is, I think I love Gene Hackman. He's great. But like, this is the Lex Luthor that feels the most like what I've wanted to see out of Lex Luthor. Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor was kind of like this like real estate mogul, kind of goofy. He wasn't sinister, and that wasn't Gene Hackman's fault, right? That was like the direction of the movie. Gene Hackman probably could have played a fucking amazing sinister Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah,
but that wasn't the direction those movies wanted to go in.
Yeah, totally. So kind of wrapping things up, any final thoughts, anything that we didn't really cover? Like, I feel like we could talk forever about this movie, which is also incredible because this movie clocks in like right around 2 hours. Like
it does.
Yeah. Packs so much into it.
No, it clocks in like just slightly over 2 hours, which, I think, again, like I said, I think this movie could be longer and might even be the better for it. But at the same time, I love a movie that has this kind of breakneck pacing, and I am a little burnt out on like every superhero movie needing to be 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh, same.
It just, I don't feel like they always earn that length. So, look, to like I said earlier, like to leave this movie wanting to just like, I want more. So awesome. Such a great feeling. And, yeah, I mean, there's so much. This movie is so stuffed with things. I mean, there are just so many characters. I could talk about like Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, right? All just amazing supporting characters. Yeah. Love that Jimmy Olsen is actually like I think for the first time in any Superman movie, Jimmy Olsen's like an integral part of the plot.
Yeah. He's not like shot in the head on assignment in Batman v Superman. I think, was that what happened to him?
Yes, he did get shot in the head. Brutally killed right after he was introduced.
I also, I have to point out, I thought it was, I chuckled a little bit when you said it's breakneck pace. I'm like, well, and Superman didn't break anyone's neck in this movie.
He didn't snap anyone's neck. Yeah. And another just interesting little touch, this movie does have this very wholesome feel, but I like that, like, James Gunn didn't really sand down kind of his edgier stuff.
Yeah.
Not too much, at least. I think it's good that this kind of has a more family friendly feel than something like Batman v Superman, obviously, or like, even like something like Guardians of the Galaxy. This feels much more like wholesome because Superman's more wholesome. He's corny, but I did appreciate that, like, there's scenes where like, Mr. Terrific kills that big kaiju. He just kills it.
Yeah.
I love that scene where Superman's like, oh, I want to take him to like an intergalactic stew so we can study him. All these things like that Superman says, it just tells you his character so well.
Yep.
And
so good.
Also like when Hawk Girl just drops the dictator and kills him at the end. I mean, I just thought it was cool that it was like, okay, this is an interesting DC universe because like there are heroes here who are like rough around the edges.
Yeah. Just like even Guy Gardner doing having the fists come up with the middle finger. It's just so great.
Yeah, and just like the fact that I'm like, oh, Hawk Girl just killed somebody.
Yeah.
Like, most evil dude on the fucking planet.
Right.
But like, I thought that was kind of interesting because it was just like, oh, like they wouldn't do that. And not to just keep comparing, this movie and Zack Snyder, this movie and MCU, but it's hard not to, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels so refreshing and you're seeing stuff. But like, you wouldn't see that in an MCU movie.
No.
Like, like Captain America wouldn't just like shoot a dude in the head and be like, well, that's that,
The inciting incident for Captain America Civil War was collateral damage from.
And that is actually true. But it was like, but it was like,
but it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And here it was just like, yep. He's evil, and like that's what we're gonna do. So I love how it just is establishing like, hey, like these heroes are gonna have like some pretty fundamental differences that are going to clash against one another. And again, I just don't think, it just felt so homogenous in the MCU after a while. And man, I feel like such a fucking fanboy saying this, but like this Superman's personality is so well established and so likable. Seeing him like just butt heads, like not necessarily physically, but just like work alongside Batman, like those contrasting personalities is going to be so awesome.
Yes. I was going to ask. So there's a lot of people on Twitter, or not on Twitter, but on Reddit, really, with the Matt Reeves Batman universe, the Batman epic crime saga. It's been said that that's likely going to be an Elseworlds thing. That's not going to be part of the DCU. There are people online that are like, oh, I want to see Pattinson and this Superman. I'm like, I don't like, even with them being so contrasting in terms of characters, just in general. Here's the thing. What Superman has established with this universe here is a universe in which there's a flying dog with a cape. There is
exactly
monkeys tweeting at Superman. Like the Batman universe does not, like, that would break that universe.
Exactly. And I think the reason like why like that wouldn't work, it would break the universe. It's just, we don't need to do it. We don't need to.
Yeah.
Right.
And
why we can have two Batmans.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, there could just be a different Batman that pops up and something else, and the audience will get it. They're like, that's Batman.
Oh yeah. Like the because I know that part of like Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, that what was announced, I don't know if this is still in the works or anything, but like the Batman movie that is supposed to be out in like 2027, I think, is Batman the Brave and the Bold. It's supposed to be about Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin, and like that is so appealing to me and interesting, especially with the subtitle of the chapters being Gods and Monsters, with Damian being a psychopath, basically.
My worry, and we could kind of like wrap up our thoughts here, I guess, on like just, that's probably a good place to end up just thinking about like where the DCU is headed. My worry is that I think it's fine to have two Batmans at once. In fact, like, I'm pretty sure like we did have Pattinson, and to some degree, Ben Affleck's Batman kind of in movies around the same time. I do wonder, what makes me worried if the Pattinson 2 will actually happen is will they release two Batman movies though in the same year with two different actors?
Oh yeah.
That to me feels like those could converge in a way that like, and like what's going to win out, it's probably going to be this whole new vision for the DC universe. Could be wrong though. And look, I don't work at Warner Brothers, and there's people much better at planning that than me. But I think the reason, like, you're right, like that would kind of break the universe, whereas like an R-rated gritty Clayface movie that visually looks different, it would still make sense because it's about a man made of clay.
Yeah.
Right. Like, whereas like that is super comic booky and crazy. So it's like, yeah, like that would exist in this world. Whereas I think like, dude, even like Clayface showing up in the Matt Reeves Batman, that would be kind of weird. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It would just, I mean, like, their version of the Riddler is just a dude in like a ski mask from Home Depot, you know, like, and I know shade, I really like that movie. It's just like, he's going for like ultra realism. Like, so, you know, I think it's fine. We don't need to connect every fucking thing.
Right.
Like, in fact, the idea of allowing Elseworld stuff is awesome.
Oh yeah. Me. Like as a dipshit consumer of things, like I would love it. Like they could, Warner Brothers and DC could just package together like all the existing live action stuff, if physical media is still a thing, and worth like this thing. Like they could do a whole box set of like all the existing stuff and be like Elseworlds, boom.
Right. That way you're not, if a filmmaker has a fucking awesome idea for something, but you're like, well, I wouldn't really make sense in this world at all. You can still just make the thing. Yeah.
You can say his name.
Like, well, we can never do that because it breaks the universe too much. It's like, just cool.
Yeah. And you can
physical, you know?
Right. And you can, you can go ahead and say his name. If a director has an awesome idea, like a Todd Phillips,
right. The king.
Yeah. But yeah, this was such a great movie. I can't wait to see it again. And also, we alluded to it in non-spoilers, but just to say, I fucking love that there's no, like, the only thing that's connecting to the future is Supergirl, which is integral to the plot. It fits in really well. And that makes me excited for Supergirl. Like, the tone shift
not a
of it.
dangling thread, right? Like,
no,
it's not like a thing where it's like, if they never feel like,
right.
if they ever followed up with Supergirl, like, the movie would be less good, right?
Yeah.
It's just like,
like
that also just works. Yeah. Like you said, it works on its own.
Oh, but, yeah. And then the post-credit scene, just like a fun thing. Like, I didn't need anything connecting to it. I was kind of thinking like, oh God, it would be cool if they show Batman or something. But like, I didn't know I needed it to be just completely inconsequential. I loved it.
Oh, yeah. Same.
So we are going to be done with our Superman review. Once again, it's in theaters. I rated it 4.5 stars. Mitch rated it 4 stars. Can you tell people where they can find you online?
Yes, you can find me at Letterboxd at wounded_kite. And, eventually I'll be writing more current things for Midwest Film Journal. But you can read hundreds of things I've written in the backlog there.
Nice. And final question, as someone who is self-appointed, like I'm now a comic book expert, for the listeners who aren't comic book experts like me, what would you recommend to novice people for a Superman story to read if they liked this? Like one Superman story.
Oh, there's one that is, I'm sure James Gunn has cited this as an inspiration, but All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison. The movie very much borrows its wacky comic booky tone, a lot in crazy kind of sci-fi ideas.
Nice.
A lot of those come from Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. It's also very current and modern, by modern I mean like 20 years old, but it feels like a very modernist take as well. Highly recommend checking out Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. You can get it in just a single graphic novel. It's a
nice,
awesome read.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Mitch. I'm going to go ahead and do the secondary review, but I'm going to let you go. So thank you so much for joining me for this. It's a blast. I can't wait to talk about the DC universe with you in the future.
Can't wait, man.
Yep.
I'm very excited. All right.
Same
see you,
here.
Matt. Thank you for
Have
having
a
me
good
on.
one. Of course. Talk to you later. Okay, and before we get to our secondary review, I'm going to take a quick moment to remind you that if you like the show, please take a moment to follow us on social media and subscribe to and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or whatever your preferred podcast app is. And don't forget to subscribe to the Obsessive Viewer Podcast YouTube channel as well, where I have some videos up there and video versions of the podcast. That's just the cover art and everything. So you can watch it on YouTube if you want it that way. And if you're interested in starting a podcast of your own, you can go to Libsyn and use the promo code OBSESS. When you sign up for a new account, you'll get up to 2 months free, depending on when you sign up during the month. And we'll get a commission on it as well. More details on that in the show notes of this episode. And now back to the show.
They tell me I view obsessively.
I know how to stop Amelia. She's getting more powerful. Soon she'll be the most dangerous weapon on the planet. Put me in a body and I'll help you stop her.
You remember what happened last time. You threatened to rip out my tongue and put me in a wheelchair.
I was upset.
Look, she wants to help us. Everyone deserves a second chance.
You would like us to rebuild a deranged robot in order to catch another one.
Would you prefer I gave you a printout that you can read at your own pace?
Okay, Megan. Time to give you an upgrade. Anything you'd like to add?
I want to be stronger, faster. Hey, so remember the time I strangled you and set the lab on fire? I want you to know that won't happen again.
All right, so tonight for this secondary review, I'm going to share my thoughts on M3GAN 2.0, which is currently concluding-ish its theatrical run. It was released in theaters June 27th, and it is currently available on PVOD, on digital. as of this week, I think. So the premise, of course, this is going to be a non-spoiler review, and it's going to be brief because I don't have much to talk about it. But the premise, according to IMDb, is 2 years after M3GAN's rampage, her creator Gemma resorts to resurrecting her infamous creation in order to take down Amelia, the military-grade weapon who was built by a defense contractor who stole M3GAN's underlying tech. The writer and director for this movie was Gerard Johnstone, and the cast includes Allison Williams, Jermaine Clement, Violet McGraw, Jen Van Epps, Brian Jordan Alvarez, Amy Donald, Jenna Davis, Ivana Sakno, and I'm going to go ahead and go into non-spoilers on M3GAN 2.0. So, for context, I thought the first M3GAN movie was okay. I ended up rating it 2.5 stars. I think that movie was a bit slow to get to the point. And I initially rated it 3 stars when I first saw it in January 2023. It was an interesting January release, Blumhouse, horror adjacent, sort of like creepy, like doll movie. Once it got to the point where she became a sadistic doll that was killing people, like, it was moving really good and pretty solid. And it really embraced that silliness and, it embraced the humor aspect of it really well. What M3GAN 2.0 does is, to its credit, it does attempt to change up things. It does the Terminator 2 thing where, okay, now M3GAN needs to be resurrected and she is now the good guy. She's now helping stop someone even worse and even more terrifying and formidable and everything. That's all well and good. Like that as an idea is really interesting. Not really interesting. It's a fun change up. I'll say that. What I didn't really like is it does also follow in line with the original movie's pacing in that it takes a long time to get moving. Like, it presents itself as this action movie, tech espionage story. And that is an interesting change up, like I said, but it takes so much time to get to where it's going. And once it gets to where it's going, there's some genuinely really good choreography, really good action set pieces, but it also gets very muddled by really just convoluted and twisty plot threads that I felt wasn't needed. So much so that it created this like convoluted plot line, all told, by the end of it, where it got to a point where I was not that interested in the plot. Like, throughout the run of the movie, I was like, I'm here to see M3GAN like kick ass and see these like android robot things, these dolls, just kick the crap out of each other and threaten, humans. There is plenty of that. It's kind of gruesome in some parts, but when you get to the point where the movie is trying really hard to be somewhat serious in terms of having this like backstabbing and like what's really going on, it just feels like it's tonally not working. It's tonally not something that's really connecting with me, because we're expected to be on this journey where it's like, oh, this person is actually doing this. This is actually the thing that's going on. And it's presented like, oh, this big plot twist, but maybe if you're more invested in the movie, you'll be more receptive to that. But for me, as someone who wasn't that invested in it, because I know what movie I'm watching, I just felt like they're doing too much without properly setting up the tone of the movie beforehand. And because of that, the plot elements at the end that are supposed to surprise and shock us and be like fun movie-going things just land with a thud. And it got to the point where it was like, okay, now we're changing up the plot even further, to the point where now we need to figure out, like, now we need to reset in our brains what the motivations of these characters are, what the stakes are at this late point in the movie. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know if I have the mental capacity for that, because I kind of just want to get out of the theater now. I want this movie to end, and that's never an experience I want to have in a movie theater. So that's kind of a convoluted way, or kind of a vague way to say that this movie did not live up to the fun of the first movie in terms of the silliness. There is some silliness there. I also can't help but notice, since I saw this damn trailer so many times in the theater, that it does feel like similar to, obviously, honestly, similar to the movie Afraid from early last year, I think. Judging from the trailer, this movie feels like it was really, really cut down, really edited to the point where I kind of feel like I really have no basis for this, but it really feels like they went in with a central idea of what the type of movie they wanted to make was, and in the edit, they molded it into a different type of movie. And I think because of that, it just faltered quite a bit, because there are scenes in the trailer that do not show up in this, and those scenes are like, those scenes are definitely the ones that in the trailer are presenting the movie as this very silly, heightened thing. Like, Megan saying, like talking about how she wants to be, like, if she wants to be taller or whatever. And like the guy saying, like, I don't care if she killed 4 people, she's an icon. Like those scenes I don't believe are in the movie, and tonally the movie isn't necessarily that. Now, the scene where she says, hold on to your vaginas, is in the movie, and I chuckled at that line. There are moments in this movie that I did get a good laugh out of me, but it takes itself too seriously in terms of the plot, and not in a way that the first movie did, in that, like, the first movie has a lot of Allison Williams caring for her niece, and the grief of Katie, and like that movie is kind of a mess in that front, but it is there. The heart is there. Like, sure, she's exploiting Katie and her grief to sell this like innovative toy, but the heart is still there, and the growth of the character is still there. Here, the movie flirts with a little bit of that, but it doesn't really go the distance with the characterization. Instead, in place of further development of their dynamic and everything, it goes into more of the kind of shock, surprise twist stuff in the plot in the third act that just did not land for me. So as kind of an action sci-fi movie, it's no Aliens or T2, but it's also not a terrible sequel. I did kind of chuckle at some points. I did enjoy some aspects of it, but it also is almost 2 hours long, and it did not need to be that long. Like, that, it overstayed its welcome, and the pacing was really, really an issue for me. So as much fun as it was in parts, it just really didn't land for me as a whole. So, I would say when it goes on to streaming, like, check it out. Don't pay for it, because it wasn't good. And I would be perfectly content, absolutely perfectly content, if they never make another M3GAN movie. I'm fine with never seeing this character in this universe again. And that's not necessarily like a huge indictment of this movie or the first movie. It's just my capacity to be interested in this franchise is now at like almost zero, because this movie didn't, like, it's already diminishing returns. So they can change up the style, they can change up the plot, they can change up the tone, but it's not really going to get my ass in the seat for any future installments, because they already kind of faltered here with M3GAN 2.0. So again, M3GAN 2.0 is currently in theaters and available for premium VOD renting and I think purchasing currently. I don't recommend it, but you know, if you want to check it out. It's a free country. So that is my review of M3GAN 2.0. I think that's it for this episode. So I'm not going to do a potpourri section. Thank you so much to Mitch Ringenberg for joining me for this review for the main review for the first part of this episode, the majority of this episode. Once again, you can check his stuff out at Midwest Film Journal and at letterboxd.com/wounded_kite. And yeah, it's a delight to have him on. And it's fun to do this show. So, that should just about do it. I'm trying to think of, any other things. Check out Patreon. I'm going to have more stuff coming out on there. Like I always say, but we have a pretty lengthy B-roll episode that's tied to this episode. So check that out at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm going to start playing myself out. That's it for this week's episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening, and make sure to follow the show on social media and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast app. Also check out our other shows, Tower Junkies and Anthology. And yeah, check out Patreon as well. Next week on the show, I'm going to be reviewing Eddington and Daniela Forever. Until then, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. And now, enjoy this short clip from a recent Patreon exclusive episode. For the full episode and more Patreon exclusive content, sign up at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer.
Can you not see why that's not the thing to say right now?
Right, exactly. Exactly. And
can you not see what that seems like you're accidentally implying about yourself?
Right. And that's
the worst possible thing you can make.
Oh yeah.
You can imply about yourself.
The worst, and this would actually be kind of hilarious, but it would be kind of funny if he just jumped back onto Twitter and said not having anything to do with this, not seeing his replies, not being aware of it, and just tweeting something about oh yeah, I love flying on private jets, or I love going to the islands and stuff.
Yeah, it just keeps going with it, blissfully unaware that he's digging his own grave.
Yeah,
I think, I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen King. I cannot even, especially the fact that he's always tweeting about pretty political things that he's probably getting blown up at all times on social
absolutely
media.
Even with just innocuous things.
I wouldn't be surprised if he almost never checks.
Yeah.
Replying and retweeting him.
Thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. This episode was produced and edited by me, Matt Hurt. If you have feedback, thoughts on our episodes, or just want to connect, you can email me at matt@obsessiveviewer.com. For more information on this show, including a full archive of our episodes and show notes, visit obsessiveviewer.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please give us a follow on social media and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice so you never miss an episode. Also, consider rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Audible to help increase our visibility and grow our community. If you want to support the show and get early access to new episodes, as well as a steady stream of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. For information on more podcasts presented by obsessiveviewer.com, visit obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. Our theme song is A Little Mad Sometimes by As Good As It Gets. For more of their music, check them out on Spotify and at asgoodasitgetsmusic.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn. Check out the show notes for your promo code to get started podcasting today.
Hi, I'm Chris Gethard, and I'm very excited to tell you about Beautiful Anonymous, a podcast where I talk to random people on the phone. I tweet out a phone number, thousands of people try to call. I talk to one of them, they stay anonymous, I can't hang up, that's all the rules. I never know what's going to happen. We get serious ones. I've talked with meth dealers on their way to prison. I've talked to people who survived mass shootings. Crazy funny ones. I talked to a guy with a goose laugh, somebody who dresses up as a pirate on the weekends. I never know what's going to happen. It's a great show. Subscribe today, Beautiful Anonymous.